It's 1 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order. Welcome to all of you. The 2019 annual meeting of the Sudden Valley Community Association will come to order. I'm Leslie McRoberts, the president of the association, and today I'm serving as the presiding officer to provide the procedures to allow us as members to do the work of the annual meeting. Ann McCartney, our parliamentarian, will assist me with the procedures. Here on the podium with me are the following members of the Board of Directors. Mike D'Angelo, Carol Holton, Lee Langdon, Eric Trower, Paula Birchler, Whitney Pierce, and Andrew Intrican. Oh, and Rich Bailey. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'd like to also introduce to you our general management and staff, Joe Acko, the general manager, Lisa Armstrong, the administrative assistant, and Joel Heverling, the account manager. I want to remind the board and the members that this is a meeting of the general membership, not a meeting of the board of directors. We've placed the board members up in front so that the membership can see them, but they are participating here in the meeting as ordinary members of the Sudden Valley Community Association. Unless they're giving a report or been asked by the chair to respond to a particular question, they are any board members wishing to speak will approach the microphone just as any other member would do. Secretary Paula Birchler will certify a quorum.
As of 1 p.m. today, there was the minimum requirement for a quorum of 50 members present and in person, and so that is met. The notice of the annual meeting addressed to all members at the address on record at the Association Administration Office was placed in the mail at least 30 days before the meeting as required by the bylaws. And this unopened copy received by me postmarked September 26, 2019 is proof of that delivery.
Having a quorum, we can proceed. The minutes of the 2018 annual meeting were approved by the board, acting as the minutes approval committee appointed by your president. The minutes are available on the website. If a member believes that other corrections are necessary, this can be done. Hearing nothing, your president appoints the board of directors to be the minutes approval committee for this annual meeting. Because of the length of the agenda, the number of people present, and the differences in opinion on the issues, the parliamentarian has suggested that we review the rules of debate and the time limits. The secretary can read them.
The following rules have been adopted as contained in our parliamentary authority, Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, and in state RCWs, with the exception of the speaker identification and speaking limits, which have been the traditional practice at our annual meetings. Number 1, the 11th edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, shall govern this meeting in all parliamentary situations that are not provided for in the laws or the charter, the bylaws, or the special rules of order. Number 2, in order to maintain decorum and in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, members will address the remarks to the chair and to other members through the chair, wait to be recognized before speaking, maintain a courteous tone, avoid interjecting a personal note into any debate, refrain from attacking or questioning a member's motives, generally avoid the use of members' names, for example, say the member who spoke last, and refrain from disturbing the business of the assembly. In order to maintain the chair's position of impartiality and to help to preserve an objective and impersonal approach, the chair will be addressed as Madam President and will speak of herself in the third person. Members who want to speak will approach the microphone, wait to be acknowledged by the chair, and open by stating their name and membership identification, which is either lot or division number or street address. Number 5, a member will be entitled to speak up to 2 minutes on any debatable issue, each time no longer than 3 minutes. The timekeeper will indicate when that time has expired. To speak a second time on the same issue, a member must wait until those who wish to speak on it for the first time have all done so. And speaking for longer than 3 minutes or for a third time will require permission from the assembly. Debate must be germane to the motion or issue that is on the floor. To maintain balance in the discussion, the chair may alternate between proponents and opponents of a motion. No motion can be made or voted upon that is not so indicated in the notice of the meeting. Unless the owners of a majority of the votes in the association reject the budget is ratified, whether or not a quorum is present per RCW 64.38.095 and RCW 64.90.525. During member questions and comments, the method of obtaining the floor and time limits specified in Rules 4 and 5 will be in effect.
Thank you. These are the rules that your president will hold all speakers to during the meeting. If you haven't already voted, get your ballots handy so that you can vote as we go through the items. The Nominations and Elections Committee will collect the ballots after we have had discussion on all of the items. Our next 3 items of business include the election of the Board of Directors, the election of the Nominations and Elections Committee, and the election of the ACC committee members. The first item of business is the election of the Board of Directors. We have 3 director positions open. For each of them is a 3-year term, and there are 6 candidates: Josh Luttrell, Karen Borchert, Andrew Tischler, Don Pearson, Steffi Jones, and Joshua Bowens. Because of the bylaw requirement of submission of names and candidates at least 60 days prior to the annual meeting, there will be no nominations from the floor. Each of the candidates has 2 minutes for remarks to the assembly. And will the candidates approach the podium? And Josh, do you choose to begin?
Good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to thank everyone for coming out. Is this on? Okay.
Is the mic on?
Thanks, everyone, for coming out. At the end of the day, we all are owners out here, and there's been a lot of tempers and a lot of debate and discussion. At the end of the day, no matter what the outcome is, I hope that we can all come together and focus on the positives. We all love it out here. We all live out here. And like I said, no matter the outcome, I just look forward to staying out here and finding a common goal and solution to move forward and keep living out here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen?
Thanks again, everyone, for coming out. For those who haven't voted yet, I thought I'd give a quick introduction of myself. My name is Karen Borchert. My family and I moved here about 5 years ago. We have 3 kids, ages 11, 9, and 4, and we moved out here for everything that Sudden Valley has to offer: the hiking, the trails, the access to the lake, the pools, and all of that, and we take full advantage of it. I'm currently a stay-at-home mom to those kids, but prior to that, I was a financial analyst for about 10 years. I did budgeting and forecasting and analyzing financial statements. I became involved in Sudden Valley shortly after moving here and have served on the Long Range Planning Committee, the Parks and Trails Committee, and helped get that reestablished. I was part of the SGM last year that funded the pools and the parks in this community center that we're meeting in right now. And then I'm currently serving on the Finance Committee. I also did a short stint on the ACC as well. All of this has given me a greater understanding of this organization, how processes work, how things work together, and the organization as well as the financial position. I think that my background and my experience can be an asset to this community. I started to really ensure that parks got adequate funding, as that was important to me and my family, and I am committed to continuing to focus on that. I think it's important that our recreation opportunities really reflect the diversity of our community. But most importantly, what I want is financial stability for this community and for our members, and working together to find the right balance of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Tischler?
I'm just going to keep it fairly short and sweet since we got a lot of stuff to get through here, but I just want to thank everyone for the support that everyone's shown, and all of the people that have come out with the SGM and this AGM to vote. It's really great seeing the community kind of stepping up to the plate here and actually getting out to vote compared to, you know, when I first moved here, our voting totals were quite a bit lower than what we've seen lately. So I'd just like to try to say we need to keep that momentum, and people need to voice their opinions and cast their votes. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. John Pearson? Is John here? Okay, Steffi Jones? No, Steffi has had a family emergency. She's not here today. Joshua Bowens?
Steffi wanted me to say that she's grateful for everyone that supported us. She had a death in the family, so she can't be here. I wanted to say thank you to everyone, too. I'm so nervous. But I want to say thanks to everyone who signed the petition to limit dues and assessments, people who voted to limit assessments, people who put signs in their yards, donated money and their time to our efforts, people who helped screen print signs in order to save money, and printed materials for us for all of our efforts. Wanted to say thank you for the people who rallied and waved signs on our behalf and on the community's behalf. People who supported us through social media, through emails, who wrote articles into the Views throughout all these political times. People who reached out to our legislators. People who I don't typically agree with who reached out to me for a beer and, you know, wanted to talk through things. I really appreciate that. And ultimately, thank you to everyone who supported AJ, Steffi, and I. You know, depending on what happens, I'm sure everything's going to be awesome. And I have no idea what else I'm going to say here, but thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you to all of you for standing for election. And now, for those of you who have ballots, please mark your ballot for your choices to the Board of Directors. The next item on business is the election of the Nominations and Elections Committee. The committee consists of 5 members and is charged with soliciting nominations for candidates to serve on the Association Board, Nominations Elections Committee, and the Finance Committee, and the Architectural Control Committee. There are 2 candidates for 3 positions, Fred Haslam and Linda Bradley. Would anybody like to speak?
I'm Fred Haslam, and I will be brief as well to help move things along. So here are the bullet points. My wife and I hail from upstate New York, and we are 12-year residents of Gate 5. I have a master's degree in the administration of not-for-profit organizations. Following my military service, I held progressively senior management positions in academic health science centers, a public health district in Spokane, and I retired from a job in Indianapolis at a cancer research foundation and research institute. I also have experience staffing and serving on boards of directors. My principal outside interests are taking advantage of all the wonderful things that we do here in the Pacific Northwest, and I lead a blues band just for fun. I'm currently serving on the N&E committee and previously served on the finance committee with Linda Bradley some years ago. Can't remember how many, but it was a few. And I also co-chaired a task force while I was on the finance committee, and that group led to the organization's first and perhaps only operations audit. I'm also currently serving on the Long Range Planning Committee and on 2 of the planning-related subcommittees. I'm running for the N&E because I now have had some experience and I've seen the committee's important work, and I aspire to continue its progress toward achieving consistently higher levels of participation and communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda? I would ask that there no be side conversations, and that's a courtesy to the people who are speaking. Thank you.
Hi, oh, geez, I don't need this thing. My name is Linda Bradley, and I've lived here since 1996. I served as chair of N&E for the years 2016 through 18. I served an extra year because many years no one applies. and to run to be elected for NNE. Although a lot of people run for the board and they think that's important, I've learned during my time that I spent doing that, it's very important for the membership to feel that their votes are counted accurately, that none are destroyed or anything. We modified the registering process, putting it more in the process of the NNE handling it rather than staff. We managed to get a ballot box for you all here in the office to be able to put your ballots in. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, so I'm back for as long as I end up staying here.
Thank you, Linda. Again, there are no nominations from the floor. The NNE committee, and they will have vacancies, appoints and fills their own vacancies and then notifies the board. Thank you. Please mark your ballots for NNE candidates. Thank you. The Architectural Control Committee, or ACC, is concerned with upholding the architectural guidelines of the community. There is one candidate for the 5 positions, Noel Holland. Noel, you have 2 minutes available if you would like to speak to the Assembly. Seeing nothing. Thank you for standing for election. Any additional members needed to fill the committee will be appointed following the rules of the governing documents. Please mark your ballots with your choice for the Architectural Control Committee. The new business to come before the Assembly consists of 6 measures, 1 financial and 4, 5 measures. Yeah, 5 measures, 1 financial and 4 bylaw amendments. You received the explanation for each of the measures in your elections packet, and you had the opportunity to attend town meetings on the measures and amendments. Today is the time for debate on the reasons why members should vote for or against each of these measures. This is not the time for questions to the board or for interactions among members. If a member has a request for information relevant to the business at hand, the member may stand, call out request for information, and go immediately to the microphone to ask the question. According to our rules, discussion must be germane to the measure itself, and the chair requests that after you identify yourself and you begin with stating whether you are for or against the measure being discussed. Remember that no motions or amendments are in order, as it is essential that those of you present and those who voted by mail-in ballot are voting on the exact same measures. Measure number 1, show the SVCA's 2020 annual consolidated budget, which provides for assessment revenue of $4,958,832 be approved or rejected. The chair calls upon the treasurer to present the budget. Okay, are we? No. Okay. Okay.
A couple of questions I've been asked, so I'm just going to clarify this. The total 2020 consolidated budget, which is on page 5 of your ballot, is the assessed revenues. This is what our dues is based on, and we base it on 92% collections rate at this point in time. There is additional budget or additional revenue that is budgeted that is non-dues revenue, and that is included in the other pages here, so you'd have a better understanding. I also had a question this morning about what is CRRRF. That is probably one of the most difficult things there is to figure out about our organization, and that is that it's our capital repair and replacement reserve fund. It's CRRRF, or fondly called SURF. So this is where all of our buildings and equipment and those sorts of things reside. There's a separate capital fund for mailboxes and a separate one for roads. You can tell from your report what the dues measure is going to be, and for developed lots, the total amount will be $144.31, and for undeveloped lots, $134.67.
Is there any discussion on this measure? Debate, please come to the microphone. Hearing nothing, please mark your ballots on measure 1. Measure 2, shall the SVCA's bylaws be amended to make technical clarifications, rewording, and reorganization with necessary conforming changes? Is there any discussion on measure number 2? Hearing nothing, please mark your ballots for measure number 2. Measure number 3. Shall the bylaws be amended to remove the Document Review Committee and the Long Range Planning Committee from the bylaws so that they can be created and structured only as needed? Is there any discussion of this measure? Seeing nothing, hearing no further discussion, please mark your ballots on measure number 3. Measure number 4. Shall the bylaws be amended to limit certain board or authority that is not already clearly stated and to confirm with certain times and required disclosures related to voting to match the state law? Is there discussion of this measure? Hearing no request for discussion, please mark your ballots on measure number 4. Measure number 5. Shall the bylaws be amended to fix conflicts with the RCWs in a way that not need additional amendments if or when the state law changes? Is there any discussion on this measure? Seeing no request for discussion, please mark your ballots on measure number 5. That concludes the 5 measures. By now, you should have marked your ballots for the Board of Directors, for N&E Committee, for the Architectural Control Committee, and for the 5 measures. Please hand your ballot to the election committee member who's passing around a box right now. Anyone else? Have all voted who wish to now? Not quite yet. We're waiting. Okay.
I'm not allowed to vote. Because I arrived at 12:31, and I was told that my votes for my 2 lots would be denied. And I see it as voter suppression.
Yes. I'm sorry. We're still collecting ballots. We're
Okay.
still collecting ballots.
Okay.
Has everyone voted who wishes to? Is there anybody else who's still got a ballot they would like to place in the box?
I can't vote because I arrived at 12:31 today.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is not time for member comments now.
Okay. I'll wait.
The polls are now closed on the elections and the measures and the bylaws. The N&E Committee will now count the remaining ballots while we continue with the business of the general meeting. Next, we will have reports from the committees. There were copies of some of the reports on the back as you signed in. I've asked the chairs of the committees to highlight their committee accomplishments and answer any questions that you have. The time limit for each report is 10 minutes unless extended by an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the assembly. Each committee, okay, are there any questions? The Architectural Control Committee first. Go to, yeah, public podium.
Good afternoon, everyone. The ACC committee had a total of 322 requests between January 1 and October 17th. Breakdown is 170 alterations, 38 tree and vegetation requests, 37 variances, 35 new constructions, and 38 permit extensions. We continue to review existing policies and to try and meet the ever-changing conditions of the community. 2 new members were added during this period to fill the committee required total of 9. 1 position was vacated by resignation and 1 was not filled at the 2018 AGM. Should be noted that at the end of this election, assuming that Noelle voted for herself, which is all that needed to be required, we will only have 5 committee members. I've received interest from 3 other individuals who would like to be volunteers for the committee that we'll present to the board after the AGM is over and our first meeting is held. So if there are any other individuals who have some qualifications that would assist us in the ACC and you have knowledge of the policies, and please send them to me or to the NNE so that can be vetted and we can fulfill the 9 committee members that we need. Basically, that's it. So unless you have any questions.
Any questions?
All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Long-range planning is next. The Long Range Planning Committee is formed to create a long-term plan for the community against which our any decisions that we make over the next several years will be brought into line with whatever the community has said our long-range plan should be. It comprises 5 subcommittees. The first of these is community outreach. They are chartered to develop a plan to facilitate relationships between Sudden Valley, its constituents, and external stakeholders. Such plan shall clarify SVCA board-approved activities and communication protocols by and between our varied community participants. These parties include, but are not limited to, SVCA members, standing committees, administrative staff, and identified agencies and interest groups that routinely contribute to Sudden Valley's quality of life. This includes relationships outside of Sudden Valley with the county and the state and whoever we have to deal with in order to successfully manage the community. The next group is the Community Safety Planning Subcommittee. It's the purpose of this the Community Safety Planning Subcommittee to develop and present long-range community safety plans that identify necessary improvements to identified risks, current safety policy and procedures, and other unidentified necessary safety practices, and further identifies additional and new requirements necessary to ensure maintaining a safe and secure living environment for the Sudden Valley community. The third subcommittee is the Finance and Revenue Subcommittee. Its purpose is to provide recommendations for strategies to protect the assets of the association and to act as a financial support vehicle for the other subcommittees, as well as for staff to strategize fiscally prudent financial means and methods for achieving 3-, 5-, and 10-year projects prioritized by the Long Range Planning Committee. It is an advising subcommittee and is also charged with developing options for the association to generate non-dues revenue. Infrastructure and Transportation is a subcommittee that's kind of in flux at this point, and we will be reconstituting that after the first of the year. Parks, Trails, and Recreation. The purpose of this subcommittee is to provide recommendations for strategies to provide recreational facilities for Sudden Valley residents, to deliver strategic plans and 3, 5, and 10-year projects for Sudden Valley's parks, recreations, and trails. In the coming year, the Long Range Planning Committee will actively seek new members for these subcommittees and provide several venues for member input to the Long Range Plan. You will have received information over the last week from staff that we are going to have our first community survey from the Long Range Planning. It will be focused on emergency planning and what the needs of actual individual community members are. It is the start of the inclement weather season, and Sudden Valley wants to learn how we can help our community members who have special needs. To understand our challenge, we published a survey about the health, safety, and welfare needs of community members. This will be the first of a series from the Long Range Planning Committee, and future surveys will focus on other areas that are being investigated by the committee. At the end of the deadline, responses will be published on the Sudden Valley website, on the Facebook page, in the e-blast, and reported at the next regular board meeting. If you go online, you will see where you can log in to take this survey. If you have a special medical or health needs or anything that cannot be met because of inclement weather or other power out situations, please let us know, and staff will keep a record of those and address them if needed. Thank you. Questions? Okay, the next committee is emergency preparedness.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike D'Angelo. I'm the chairperson of the Emergency Preparedness Committee. The Sudden Valley Community Preparedness Committee, or EPC, is a volunteer organization. We serve as an ad hoc committee of the Board of Directors, and the Emergency Preparedness Committee supports the emergency preparedness and response in a variety of ways, including drafting and updating sections of the Sudden Valley Emergency Operations Plan, performing resource inventories, and informing residents on matters related to emergency preparedness. We have the responsibility to provide a year-end report to the board, and this report will highlight areas in which we have provided deliverables for the calendar year. In December 2018, the board mandated that the EPC submitted an evacuation plan that would allow residents multiple exits in the case of an emergency. The plan was formulated over many months and submitted to the board in an October board meeting. The plan was presented by Norm Smith and Henry Renteria, as both highlighted the need to continue work on the plan with other committees in the community. We also sponsored a tabletop exercise continuing the foundation laid last year on the Incident Command System, or the ICS. The importance to the community and the staff. This year, the general manager and staff members participated in the exercise. ICS will continue to be a priority for the community. We also helped spearhead the installations of the traffic advisory signs, 1610 AM on your dial. That's what you have on your seats or in your hands right now. We also sponsored in August a Grab and Go workshop. The workshop featured 3 speakers, Greg Hope from CERT, Henry Renteria as a volunteer, and Norm Smith as a Sudden Valley Community Safety Officer. With volunteer groups Sudden Valley Amateur Radio Club, the Volunteer Mobilization Center, and the Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT. 40 residents pre-registered, And we are going to be holding another one on November 23rd in the dance hall at 10 o'clock. You must pre-register before you can attend. We also have the Long Range Planning Committee for Public Safety and Emergency Response, and we co-authored an agreement for a service agreement with the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office to provide emergency management services. The agreement was presented to the board and requested a vote that would allow the general manager to begin negotiations with the county. We support the synergy between the groups for the betterment of the community. Our meetings are held on the second Tuesday of the month at 9 a.m. in the fire hall in the training room. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Communications Committee?
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Trower. I'm the chair of the Sudden Valley Communication Committee, and we're a committee that is always in need of more volunteers. So if anybody is interested in joining a fantastic group of people, ours is one of them. The Communication Committee isn't what some people think it is. Some people believe that the Communication Committee actually creates the message, creates the communication, or in some way changes it. But what we're responsible for doing is maintaining and developing and enhancing the two-way communication tools and methods that are used in Sudden Valley as well as to the wider community. And by maintain, I don't mean that we actually fix things like the website. That means that we keep things going. We make sure that our website continues to exist. Maintenance is provided by staff. The second responsibilities that we have are to publish information to keep members informed. That means making sure that the views continues to be used, as an example. We do coordinate with staff to promote community events and try to welcome new members to the Sudden Valley community with those new member packets that have been refined over the years. And we try to connect with those outside of Sudden Valley, the community outreach, interfacing with people at the county level, for example. Some of the things that we accomplished as a committee this last year with our subcommittees that we sometimes add or remove as necessary throughout the year. We had event support subcommittee, we had a web and tech subcommittee, candidate forums subcommittee, and audiovisual subcommittee. For example, what that committee does is tries to make sure that microphones and audio work and the video for the video being done to put on YouTube of meetings. Some of the things that these committees do, they get a lot of things done, and then they meet separately and then report back to the whole committee every month. Some of the stuff this year that was accomplished was we recommended additional methods of communication, including weekly e-blasts, emergency text alerts, which a lot of people, how many people have signed up for? Okay, in the last couple of weeks since we instituted it, we have over 400 people that have signed up for the emergency text alerts, so that's working out well. Mailbox cluster community signs, which it's being tested at Gate 13 right now to see how the community reacts, and that's going to augment the signs that are at the gate entrances. Let's see, we're trying to wind down the town hall alert system. It did not work as was originally planned, and winding it down is not just a turn it off type of operation, unfortunately. So that's in progress. We assisted the staff with a handful of community events, and some of those events included the Bite of Sudden Valley, for example. We extended the audio and video support to the Long Range Planning Committee, and we've been training staff in setting up and using all of the equipment. Hosted the Sudden Valley and the state and county candidate forums here, just to in the last couple of months. Those went real well, good participation. Expanded social media presence to include Twitter, primarily for emergency preparedness and response purposes. And so that's something else that if people use Twitter, Sudden Valley has a presence there now. We worked with staff to clean up and update the Sudden Valley website to improve functionality, and that is always a work in progress. And again, as volunteers trying to help clean up something, it's not every month that something gets done. So we need more volunteers. And we worked with staff to repair internet connectivity issues here in the dance barn and and establish fairly consistent live streaming of the board meetings and other special meetings. And so that's, whether it's live streamed or not, it does get recorded and put on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So that's some of the notable accomplishments that we had this year, and we hope for more to come. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them. A couple of questions. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, with the website, has it been discussed hiring a professional to clean it up? Because it is very difficult to navigate.
Sure. The question was that has it been discussed to employ a professional to actually, was your question to rebuild the website or simply clean it up? And so what we have done is we have a recent in-house hire that is trying to wrap his head around that right now. He is an IT professional, and it would be nice, in my opinion, to completely rebuild the whole thing, but that requires more money than we've budgeted for something like that. But yeah, it's certainly been discussed, and I would love for that to happen in the future. But with the budget constraints that we have given ourselves for that type of operational task, we're just trying to make it better the way we can right now. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Eric, can you give an example of a particular form of communication where you've done an experiment, let's say, in that area, and you evaluated it? How you evaluated it, and how you made a decision about whether to continue it or to stop it?
Sure. Well, a great example of that would be right now the trial of the new the communication signs that we're hoping to establish at every mailbox cluster. We identified the fact that when you're exiting a gate, you have a very limited amount of time, a small window, to be able to read what's on that reader board to know what's happening in the community in that coming week. And I found myself holding up a couple of cars just to make sure okay, is there a board meeting this week? Something like that. And so that discussion took us months of trying to figure out what would be the best approach to getting more signs and where to put them and where it would have the most impact and the most logical place. And we arrived at, well, let's test it at the mailbox clusters. And so we're going through that operation right now. One of the things that we failed in that experimenting process with was the town square system that was implemented last year. And for people that don't know about it, I'm good with that because it's going away. So, thanks. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
How does the text alert work? Like, who sends it? What is being sent?
The question was, how does the text alert system work and who sends it? How's it being sent? You can sign up for the text alerts on the website, suddenvalley.com, and it's something that in case of an emergency or other critical event, am I stating this correctly? Right. It's managed by staff, so that if there's a road closure or something else that is an immediate issue that people might need to deal with, staff types it in the computer and it gets broadcast. Yes, ma'am.
I guess I'm saying is that when we had that pavement of the road, would that be something that we would get a text alert about?
The question was, as an example, the paving that happened this last summer. Would that have been something that we got a text alert about? I believe that would be. Is that correct? Yes. It's the whole reason for it is to give immediate information when it's available to people that might be affected by something that's happening. So.
One more.
Yes, ma'am.
How far does it go? Like if there was an accident or something, road closure off Alger, would that be an alert for us, people who travel that direction? Would that be something that would be sent from the text?
So the question was, what is the extent of the notification? For example, if the Alger is closed, that a lot of Sudden Valley community members travel on a more than daily basis. Would that be something that's on the text alert? I don't believe that we would be doing alerts of the greater community. As we discussed a few minutes ago about trying to test things and achieve a sweet spot of implementation of something, this being a brand new system that we're rolling out, we're going to be finding new reasons to use it or maybe not use it, because we might not need to give a text alert about every tree that falls down, for example, but that we'll be dialing that in over time. And I'm sure that if the entire road at the Firs is closed or something, there's a lot of social media that is going to alert you too. So, but I think that we'll be adjusting that. Yes, ma'am.
If staff is the one that's doing this, what happens on the weekends?
The question was, what happens on the weekends if staff is doing this? We have members of staff that are always on the job, unfortunately, or fortunately. But so that's, we're not going to have somebody in the office to do it. But again, this is a rollout in progress right now that I'm hoping that we'll have more and more extensive use of. Yes, sir.
Who tells the staff?
The question was, who tells the staff of an event? So there is, we have the norm, and norm is whenever something big happens, the security people here are in contact with either norm or management, and there would be a trickle down of getting that information plugged in where it needs to be. Any others? Okay, well, thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the sunny day.
Okay, thank you. Next is document review.
Good afternoon. The Document Review Committee's purpose is to suggest responsible changes to the governing documents. This year, we worked on a revised N&E manual, and we managed to have the board accept the deletion of a rather large number of completely outdated policies and procedures that confusingly were still listed on the website, among many other things. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. The committee is tiny. We had 4 people on it, 3 directors and 1 very caring, devoted community member. And and they're all listed in the report that's on the back table, and I thank all of them for their work. It's not exactly exciting work, but it is incredibly necessary, and it is very, very detailed. Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Parks, Trails, and Recreation? Do we have? Okay.
Hi, I'm Karen Borchert. I am the acting chair of the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee. What we are tasked with doing is improving safety, accessibility, and just overall awareness of our parks and trails and recreation areas. We have 4 different subcommittees: the Parks Subcommittee, the Trails Subcommittee, Recreation, and then also the Marina is within there. We also have with the special assessment, we help to prioritize the parks. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but how those things should be prioritized, and that helps our staff to plan for budgeting and for projects and such. This year, the Parks Subcommittee finalized the master plan, and what this was we went to every single one of our 20 named parks. We noted any issues, we took photos. Those are now on the website, and you can also see them downstairs. They're displayed. This was used to update. We prioritized each of the parks and kind of labeled them, whether they needed to be kept in a pristine or an orderly, or if they were a more natural park. Some of our wooded areas are more like that. And that helps our staff to know the amount of maintenance required. In addition to that, it also helps for prioritization. We put prioritization for parks that needed attention, whether it's for safety issues or whatever, and that helped the Maple Leaf Park that was finished this year, as well as Gate 5 and the park down here, the Barnes Park, which is being worked on currently. The Trails Committee is also working on their master plan. They actually, since the trails were not as well documented as the parks, they're going through and GPS tracking and updating the trails map. Some of the trails don't even have names. They're naming those. Last year, they prioritized the following to be worked on this year by staff, which was Strawberry Falls, the Gate 5 Trail, Picnic Point, and Lake Louise Trail. We also have a really great group of volunteers that has been working extensively on the area-wide trail. The Recreation Department spearheaded the Trunk or Treat event that happened just last Saturday here, and it had a bunch of different activities. Trunk or Treat out in the parking lot, a dance and a band in here, a few games, some things downstairs as well, and professional photography that was sponsored by the RE/MAX Sudden Valley office. Lastly, as part of our committee, we have the two dock masters for the marina sit on our committee, and they have been assisting with oversight and safety down at the marina, especially while some of the construction was going on with the spit reinforcement. Additional ADA parking was created. They also helped to streamline the renewal process and really help to be a liaison between the tenants down there, of the boat owners, and staff. I just want to touch really quick. The disc golf course is not technically part of our subcommittee, but we do have representatives that sit on that. And they have been working very hard over the last year to clean up that area and get the disc golf course established. This has helped remove a bunch of hazardous trees and ladder fuels, et cetera, to make it safer. They found some squatter campsites, and so just their general presence there, I think, has made it a lot safer. Plus, it's a free amenity for Sudden Valley to use at no cost to us. Both of these reports are on the website. If you want to go, and there's more detail, especially for the disc golf course, if you're interested in looking a little bit more. Are there any questions? Stan?
I have a question. Regarding the parks that exist, just in the last 24 hours, I saw a post of a child bullied and actually assaulted at Huckleberry Park. Has there been a consideration for video surveillance at parks that have been historically problematic?
It's not something that the committee has heard of, although I've heard of a couple of events on social media lately. It's definitely something that we consider, especially if it continues to be a problem. I would encourage anyone that is aware of that to go through security so we have proper documentation of things like that, and then we can really assess how much of a problem it is and work from there. Any others? Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you. That concludes the committee reports. The Finance Committee report will be given as part of the Treasurer's report. I'll now make my report as the Association President. To put your name forward to be on the board of directors can sometimes be a little bit frightening. And if you are selected, you will sit on this board, and no matter what your opinion is, there will be somebody who disagrees and is not shy about telling you about it. We do have 3 board members who are leaving today, and I would like to recognize them for their service on the board in the past. Maybe directors who have left have been presented with a plaque. What do you do with a plaque? So I have asked that we get something for each one of the directors, and I hope it is more useful than something that you just put in a drawer. The first one is for Director Sarah Holmstrom, who was a director from 2016 to 2019. Sarah not being here, is there someone who would like to take this for her? Let's open it and see what these look like. It is. Yes. Jack, the girls will love it. Oh, yes, I'm sure they will. Okay. Yeah, and here it is. It does have a logo on it, the name and the date that they served. Okay? Shall I allow you to put this back together? Thank you very much. Okay. And the second one is for Larry Brown, who has served most recently on the Board of Directors from 2016 to 2019. Larry? Finally, we have an award for Carol Holden, who has been on the board for 6 years now, from 2013 to 2019, and has done a wonderful job as the treasurer. Thank you. I did place the president's letter in the ballots that you received, and so you do have my report as to some of the things that were done this year. The general manager, Joe Ackle, will be giving a more in-depth review of our accomplishments over the last year, and so thank you. Carol Holden, our treasurer, will now make her report.
Hi. In the interest of time, I'm just going to pick a few of the highlights to talk about, but the entire report is posted online, and so anyone who is interested can read it there. Our collections rate as of August 31 was 96.9%, so I thank all of you who are participating well and being good citizens. We do work with people who are having difficulty, so if you, for any reason, are having a challenge or know of someone who is, please have them contact our office. We work really hard with people to help them find a way to stay current as possible. We have an audit coming up this year, or had an audit this year, which was once again, this was for the 3rd year in a row, we have had no material or significant deficiencies. Our reserve study will be redone this year, a full level one reserve study, which includes an on-site visit. In fact, one of our contractor has already been here for his first visit, so they are working on it now. There was a special general meeting, by which all of you are aware, there was a new bylaw, and the board subsequently adopted a policy to follow the guidelines of that bylaw for future budgeting purposes. Somebody asked me about capital repairs and replacement reserve fund. I talked about that a little bit earlier. I think the major project that was done this year is the sprung structure is finally up at Area Z. This means, and for those of you who don't know where Area Z is or what the sprung structure is, don't worry about it. The main thing you want to know is we now are well prepared to remove snow in the event of a bad storm. Now, I'm hoping we will get to skip a year or two before we have another one, but we are prepared. For the roads fund, the biggest project was probably the resurfacing this year and the ditches and swales. Now, many of you may remember back in 2016, we had a special general meeting regarding that. And I want to assure everyone that the funds that are collected each year for that are set aside only for that project. We have not yet been able to spend the funds each year that are required or are set aside because we have challenges with having enough people in maintenance. We're going to try something a little different next year in hopes that we can get caught up, but we are on our addition. This is our, let's see, 16, 17, 18, this is our 4th year that we've been doing it. And we are making progress, but those monies are kept in that account, so we always will use those funds just for that. And that is to clean, those of you who may not know, that's to clean the sides of the roads, make it more easy to travel, make sure that we can get sunlight to the roads so that they can, ice melt can work more appropriately, and it keeps it safer for us to drive on those roads. And the only other thing is we did take some monies out of UDR this year. The biggest one was for our snowstorm. We just did not budget enough. We set aside $30,000 and it actually cost us $124,600 to remove snow this last February. And so a large portion of that came out of UDR, the 94,000 plus came out of UDR. Are there any questions regarding the treasurer's report? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll now call on Joe Ackler, the general manager, for his report.
Good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone today? I'll keep this short. Okay, just to touch on a few things, first of all, this year. First, I'd like to thank the board for this opportunity as well as the community. It has been an interesting 10 months to say the least. It has been a very fun adventure, though, just so everybody knows that. Some of the highlights this year that we have completed. The Marina Soft Armoring, that was completed in the spring. As I had mentioned, the Area Z storage building, the sprung structure, that is up. That is something that was slated to go up, and it is up. And the other thing is we implemented the text messaging system. That is something to keep, try to keep everybody informed. One of the biggest things with Area Z this year was after 20 plus years of being contaminated and listed, Area Z is now delisted with DOE, so that is a clean site. So 20 years later, the community has finally got that off the list. As I mentioned, Long Range is working on a survey. We are trying to get the information as much as we can for the health, safety, and welfare of the community. When I got here in January, we ended up, everybody said it never snows here, and it snowed. And we found out where our shortcomings were in trying to help, mainly the community members, in times of need. We didn't really have a good list. Norm and myself, as well as admin, were taking phone calls, fielding calls, moving people, helping people get out, getting ice melts, elderly and sick. So Long Range and Norm, myself, Scott Walsh, this is something that we're working on. We want to be able to reach out and help you guys. If we don't have that information, we can't help. So that, I strongly encourage everybody to take this survey just so that we have that database. We'll use it as well as South Whatcom Fire Company. With the snow this year, the 6 weeks, we used 600 tons of sand, 35,000 pounds of ice melt, 7,000 gallons of liquid de-icer, and 263 hours of overtime in 6 weeks. And it doesn't snow. Some of the events. If anybody was at the marina over July 4th, there was 500 to 700 people. They did give out 500 lunches. That is an event for the community. There is no cost to that. Just the other day, we had the trunk or treat. There was about 350 people here. I did not attend it, but everybody who did attend it said it was quite the show, and that is a good thing. Upcoming, we have the Holiday Craft Fair on the 16th of November, and then the 7th of December, we have Breakfast with Santa. As ACC had mentioned, in the last 2 years, we have about 64 homes, new homes that are going up, which is a good thing for the Valley. On the accounting side, we are on an average monthly rate for collections of 96.67 in 2019. Last year, you were 96.79, so we are relatively close as that goes. The other thing is, the big one is the percentage of revenues of expenses. Last year, you were 89%. This year, we are 82.7. So we have trimmed the expenses roughly about 6%. With a projection out with collections and the current spending, we are projected, if everything stays the same, of a $240,572 surplus in the budget, as opposed to about a $900 loss last year. There has been 241 welcome packets, so there's 241 new owners here. L&I and our unemployment claims, we are continuing to work with those to keep those down. That is through training and better hiring practices. We also transitioned to a less expensive payroll system, which allows us to have more data. And currently, IT, we're working on some changes in that process to save us about $5,000 a year. Fitness center, there has been 704 average visits this year in the fitness center. The main pool had 678, and the quiet pool had 156. So our fitness center and our pools are getting used, and that is a good thing to see. It is a recreational community, so anytime that the community comes out to these venues, that is a good thing for them. Parks and trails renovations, they have done Maple Leaf, Gate 5, Community Center Playground, as well as the trails up, Picnic Point, Lake Louise, Strawberry Falls, and Lake Louise Road. These are all amenities that anybody can go to. The Parks and Trails is a wonderful system, and I would encourage anybody to go use them. If you don't know where they are, downstairs there is a full list of where the Parks and Trails are, so you can see where they are in the community. Golf. The total revenue from golf this year over the same period last year, we are at $839,005 in golf. Last year, there were $726,338, so a little over $100,000 in revenue difference from last year to this year, as well as a positive increase in rounds by 2,800 rounds from last year to this year. A few new tournaments that they added. The U.S. Open Senior Qualifier was here. The Western Washington Viking Classic, the Washington State Women's Amateur was here. The Builders Industry was here. Washington State Public Links was here, as well as Aslan Classic and UBC Invitational, which is a college invitational, which we will have for 2 more years. Maintenance, the Firewise program, again, is a great program. That is increasing each year. The participation is up again this year, and it is something that we are working on, again, with Long Range to tackle that issue and get more people
and more funds and better reserves for that done. Clean and Green, again, this allows you, the residents, from October to May to bring stuff and dispose of the waste, to keep the fuels out of the woods so that we don't have, if we do have a forest fire, we do not, it won't be as bad. Phases 1 and 2 of the road services were done. There was about 8 miles that were micro-sealed. We will continue to watch that. Next year, we will not be doing anything with that. We will kick it over to the following year. I want to get through a year and see how the road services hold up. As I said, EPC is working on security and emergency, working on many plans to help the community out, from developing operation evacuation plans. We are partnering with Whatcom DEM to hopefully get some assistance out here. As a private community, we are basically standalone. We do not get any federal funds, nor do we get any local funds. We are deemed a standalone community, so we are going to do everything we can to work locally and nationally to get funds for us if there was any natural disaster, because they will deem us non-needy. Meanwhile, you go 500 feet outside the community and they will get everything that they need. EPC is also hosting a grab-and-go workshop. These bags are for the residents. They're a pretty good thing. It has everything in there for your own home emergency if you have to shelter in place. They are a good thing, and we do have another one coming up November 23. Thank you. Some of the projects that we're going to be working on next year, the first one will be a full engineer study of this building to see what the functionality is with this building and what the future might hold for it. Hasn't been done in quite a few years, but nothing will be done, whether a rebuild or a retro, until this report is done and everyone can see it. It will be out to the community as soon as it is done. Some of the other things that we'll be working on, vegetation control will be continuing. We'll be working on the Windward Drive retaining wall. We'll be working at the marina. Anybody who has a boat knows that the arm has, every once in a while doesn't work, but we're going to be working on that, as well as the whole parking area down there. The kayak and canoe storages will be removed back to the original placement. And phase 2 of the golf course irrigation project will be completed at that point. Any questions? Yes, Linda. The rotunda one is already done, yes. Barn 7 will be done when barn 6 is done, all in one process. Part of the reason they're still there is until what's determined with this building, you have an 18-month window to get something out of the ground. So until the whole footprint down here is determined, barn 6 will not come down, nor will that foundation disappear. But that's going to be something that's an ongoing thing, and it will be something that you guys are going to determine what this footprint looks like. Yes? Joe, your first 10 months here, some people would say that it takes a year for you to understand the job you've taken on, where you eventually do it at a higher level. What would you say is the most important thing that you've learned about this community as you come into this role? Yeah, Mac, that's a trick. Okay, that's fine. That's a fair question. No, I think the biggest thing that I have taken out of my 10 months here is that it is a very, very, very diverse community, much more so than anything else that I have been in. It does get crazy at times, but that is a good thing. I think open and honest debate without being attacking, I think, is a great thing. And that's where I hope we eventually get to. Yes?
What's the estimated total residency of Sun Valley now?
About 7,600, give or take. Oh, thank you. Again,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Is it still the intention to permanently close the road between the
In that small section, yeah, where it's pretty steep, that is still slated to be closed during the winters, yes.
During the winter?
Yes, not during the, that is open now during the summer.
Right, because with wildfires going crazy, we need a second way out from that.
Yeah, and that one is opened, that won't close until, I believe, the 1st of December, somewhere in that range.
You're not closing with ecology blocks anymore, right? So it's just a chain, so if you had to drive.
We could cut, if we get a forest fire in January, we'll get stuff moved out of there.
I have another question. Is there any way we can police the beaches in the summer so that, I feel like there's dozens and dozens of cars and vehicles from outside the community that totally block up everything and take up the whole beach, and they don't pay dues and they're not from around here.
Those are, all of our beaches are public access due to us being not-for-profit.
So we can't do anything about it.
If we want to go to private, and then there's some issues that were prior to me being here that were bigger than what the community could, I believe, face. So to stay in a nonprofit situation, they have to keep those beaches and a marina open to public.
And parking areas and
Yes.
everything?
Yes. Yes.
I was wondering if you feel like we have an accurate assessment of the number of residential homes that are rented.
The question is, do we have an accurate assessment of homes rented versus owners? That is some of the stuff that we're working on with the survey. That will be in there so that I have an idea of the needs, again, of the community. So in that survey, that is one of the last questions, whether you own or whether you rent. I do not have it at this point in time. No, I do not.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you. We've had a request for the N&E committee to give a report. If there's no objection. Okay, thank you.
I'll be quick because I know everybody is waiting for the results of my committee. You can't hear? Better? Better? Yes, it will be quick. But I do want to let people know that I was the third chair of N&E this year. When I agreed to be a member, I thought I would have one AGM to be a worker bee for. Many of you are aware that we had, that I became the chair and also had 2 big elections to manage. We did finish the elections manual, and I just want you to know that we have a very complex system that has been built to ensure the integrity of the election. Individual people may have challenges about a particular thing, but we have checks and cross-checks and processes, and the new committee coming in will be completing and continuing to do that work. My committee will finish a lessons learned, because we did learn some, and some process improvements. I also wanted you to know that we'll be hoping, the committee hopes, to roll out electronic voting in the near future. I'm doing a quick calculation, but if you had one person doing all of the work that the committee and the counting people have done, and staff people, you would have to pay somebody for at least 6 months of work in terms of the total number of hours, the volunteers and staff. So electronic voting will help that out a lot. And finally, I just want to say goodbye. It's been an interesting trip. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, now is the time for property owner comments. Remember, your comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please approach the microphone for recognition. State your name and your street address. The secretary will keep a list of the topics and the concerns that are raised. The summary of topics and concerns will be an addendum to the minutes of this meeting. Remember that no business that was not in the notice of the annual meeting can be conducted. This is to protect the rights of the absentees who would have only been notified of the business on the emailed notice. If you have comments, please come to the microphone. Name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Bernard Davidson. I live at 17 Starview Lane. I also own 15 Starview Lane as an empty lot. And I appreciate the dedication of everyone here today. It's self-evident. I do have one comment. I don't understand why there suddenly became this voter registration process. I've lived here since 2001, and they said, oh, I can't vote unless I'm here in person by 12:30. And that doesn't make any sense to me, but that's just a comment. Anyway, I appreciate everyone's dedication. I already raised a couple of the issues that I'm concerned about with the general manager, and I'm glad for everyone's dedication. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Carol Holton, Division 2, Lot 81, and the outgoing treasurer, obviously. First of all, I didn't get a chance to, or I forgot to thank all of the many people who volunteered on the Finance Committee over the last 5 years that I was treasurer. I hope you all, those of you who were listening to the various committees, all the work that's been done, have some sense of what it takes to commit time to all the volunteerism. There are a tremendous number of people with a lot of wonderful talent in this community, and I really do appreciate the efforts of the Finance Committee, but also all of the other committees that people have been participating in. And if you have not been involved, I highly recommend it, because we need good people with great ideas. Doesn't matter if we agree, I'm with Joe, just let's have the discussion and be kind to each other. I'm looking forward to my retirement, so to speak, but I intend to be a little bit involved. But I just want to thank all of you for your participation and for coming here and being part of this as well. Thank you.
Just a general comment, Curry Miles, 43 Valley Crestway. You might ask, who are we? We are a diversified community living in an extraordinarily beautiful natural environment of land and water. What is the responsibility of our board? In my mind, it is the responsibility of the board to act and oversee our operations on behalf of all of us, our residents, and respecting not just some, but all. We all know that Sudden Valley is no longer just a retirement community for golfing and water recreation, but a community of all ages, especially of growing young families and of seniors, many of which are on limited incomes, who can't make up for past financial limitations in 1, 2, or 3 years. The board must be sensible and realistic in balancing our needs and the respective budget costs as we go forward with the new board. Please make this balance of needs and costs your priority for 2020. Make it work for all of us. I thank you for your time and efforts for our well-being.
Thank you.
Michael Wadsworth, 5 Western Lane. I just wanted to say I found it ironic that one of the first comments today was that the budget that we're voting on today would be effective immediately, and after our SGM, our amendment was pushed off for a year.
I'm Nancy Alyanak. I'm 4 Sandalwood Circle. It's in Gate 3. I have what's a question for our board president. The dues increase part of this budget would not be possible without the money support, and the lobbyists of the Community Associations Institute. The Institute is largely responsible for the massive dues increases situation we are in now. I have just discovered that 2 of our board members are the Legislative Action Committee delegates. In other words, they are lobbyists. So while most of us were trying to figure out what happened to the Sudden Valley bylaws we signed on to when we bought our houses, 2 board members knew exactly what was happening because they made it happen. So my question for Leslie, our board president, is, when did you find out Eric Trower and Larry Brown were lobbyists for the Institute, and do you think that lobbying might be a conflict of interest? Thank you.
Nick, are there more comments? Okay, are the results ready yet?
Is there any response to that comment?
You may make a comment of your own.
Okay. I would
You may come to the
No, I'm
come to the microphone, please.
I would actually like a response to that comment that was just made.
Let's keep it down. Do you have a comment?
No, I'm asking you to comment, to respond to that comment that was just made.
Okay. No, thank you. I
All
will
right.
do that later. This is a meeting to elect officers and to elect the board and the budget. Apparently, the results are ready. Okay, let's take a look and see where we are. I can't. Okay, for the board of directors, Andrew Tischler, Steffi. I will read the results and make them official. Thank you. For the positions on the board of directors, the candidates received the following number of votes. Andrew Tischler, 1,176, Steffi Jones, 1,040, Joshua Bowens, 1,034. Therefore, they have been elected to the board of directors for 3-year terms. Congratulations. Let's see, for positions on the Nominations and Elections Committee, Fred Haslam and Linda Bradley have been elected for 3-year terms on nominations and elections. ACC. Noelle Holland received 1,159 votes, so she has been elected to the ACC. The measure number 1, shall the Sudden Valley budget be approved or rejected? The required number have not voted against, and so the budget has been approved. Measure number 2, shall the bylaws be amended? For 578 and against 1,088, and therefore this measure has been rejected. Measure number 3, the bylaws be amended to remove the Document Review Committee and the Long Range Planning Committee. For 510 against 1,153, this measure has been rejected. Measure number 4, shall the bylaws be amended to limit certain board authority that is not already clearly stated and to conform with certain timelines and required disclosures related to voting to match state law? For 566 against 1,094. Therefore, measure 4 has been rejected. Measure number 5, shall the bylaws be amended to fix conflicts with the RCWs in a way that will not need additional amendments if and when the state law changes? For 524 against 1,137. Therefore, this measure has been rejected. Okay. The votes having been counted, any announcements? Anybody? Okay. After a brief recess, an open organizational meeting of the new board will be held down in the multipurpose room following the adjournment of the AGM. And just for your information, there will be one board meeting in November, and that will be on November the 14th. The business of the annual meeting having been completed, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.